All right, everybody, we're going to get started. Good afternoon. I'm very pleased to welcome you here to the ribbon cutting ceremony for the recently completed Assabet River Rail Trail running from South Acton to downtown Maynard. This is a great celebration. I was really happy to be here when we did the groundbreaking. It just seems like just a short time ago. But I'm really excited here to be joined here today by the many state and local officials who have really worked hard to make a project like this happen. I need to acknowledge a few people along the way. So first off, I really want to acknowledge our federal partners, led here by Jeff McEwen from the Division Administrator from the Federal Highway Administration. Without them, we can't do any of these projects. So please give Jeff a round of applause. Thank you. The Connective Project established a 3.4-mile multi-use recreational trail linking the Assabet River National Wildlife Refuge with the downtown Maynard Business District and the South Acton commuter rail. And many of you may remember the groundbreaking we did on the Maynard side of this project just seems like just yesterday, but it was a couple of years ago now. Since 2015, the Baker-Polito administration has constructed or funded 150 miles of paved trails, adding to the current statewide inventory of 565 miles of paved trails. And you know, these projects, thank you, it's a great accomplishment. And you know, these projects would not be possible if it weren't for the hardworking staff, the men and women of Mass DOT who really work hard every single day to make these projects happen. We seem to have had a lot of these projects here in the central part of Massachusetts. This is a District 3, that's near and dear to my heart. It's one that I formerly used to manage, and before taking my current position, it's now really ably managed by Barry Lorian, who could not be with us here today, but a number of his staff are here with us, and please give them a round of applause for the hard work that they've done on this and so many other projects. I also want to be sure that I mention our contractor, the Alessandro Corp., who really did a great job getting this project done. And finally, the last group really that needs to be mentioned as far as making these projects happen is all of you that are here with us today. Without your great advocacy, without you pressing us to make sure these projects happen in a way that's good for you and your community and to establish these important links between towns, we would not be able to get these projects done. So please give yourselves also a round of applause. All right, thank you. Now with that, I want to take this opportunity to introduce a true advocate, not just for cars, highways, roads, bridges, and trains, but for all modes of transportation, who has also had a keen focus on bicycles and pedestrians throughout her career. It is my pleasure to introduce the Secretary of Transportation, Stephanie Pollock.
Thanks, Jonathan, and thanks for the great work you do every day as Highway Administrator. We're always keeping an eye on multiple projects, so I cannot think of a better place to be this afternoon. We're also keeping half an eye on our project over on Commonwealth Avenue Bridge over the Mass Pike, and the Green Line just started running on Commonwealth Avenue in time for the evening commute for our Beeline riders. So good day today. The only bad thing about today, quite frankly, is that I'm standing here in a suit, and as soon as we are all done, a bunch of you are going to go have a beautiful bike ride on a gorgeous afternoon on a beautiful piece of infrastructure, and I am going to go on to my next meeting. So I'm going to have to tell my staff to stop scheduling things that way. Let me ride on some of these things. But in all seriousness, you know, the thing about these projects, the reasons that people get so enthusiastic about them more than a lot of the bridge or road projects that we do is that they really, done right, become the connective tissue of communities. And that's really what people are looking for. People are looking for, you know, even people who, you know, drive for a lot of their trips, people are looking for that opportunity, that chance, that alternative, so that at least some of the time you can take a walk, you can get on a bike. And you know, the thing that I say all the time is the thing that excites me about cycling and walking and the money that we put into creating safe infrastructure for folks who want that option of cycling or walking is it's transportation and it's also recreation, right? It's transportation and it's also public health. It's transportation and it's also greenhouse gas reduction. There's two-fers and three-fers from every dollar that we invest in projects like this. So this particular project, for example, you know, one of the things we talk about when we talk about transit is what we call the first mile last mile problem, which is how do you get to that transit station if you just live a little bit too far to walk, or if the parking garage fills up before you can get there in the morning. And so rail trails that connect to transit, to commuter rail stations like the one in South Acton, they're really a win for transit riders as well as for cyclists. So it's really wonderful to see this phase of the project come to fruition. It's really wonderful, as Jonathan mentions, to have participated in both the groundbreaking and now in the ribbon cutting for this project. And it's really wonderful for MassDOT to be seen as not just a supporter in theory of creating better walking and biking options for people, but as an agency that delivers walking and biking infrastructure in the same way as we deliver transit infrastructure and roads and bridges. We've got a bunch of other exciting things related to our MassDOT commitment to walking and biking coming up. We'll be having draft statewide pedestrian and bicycle plans coming out. We have a statewide safety plan coming out by the end of the year that will have a big focus on ensuring the safety of our folks who choose to walk and bike. So there's a lot going on, but there are a few things that are as wonderful as an afternoon like today when we can all gather here at the Assabet River Rail Trail and celebrate the collective results of a decade, or possibly more than a decade, just this stretch is like a decade, right, of hard work by our colleagues in the legislature, by our colleagues in local government, by the hardworking men and women of District 3, and by all of you who, keep us honest by reminding us that we need to be delivering the projects that you want. So thank you all for coming, and enjoy the bike ride for me.
Thank you, Secretary. And as the Secretary alluded to, we at MassDOT, we're often really known for doing some of the bigger projects, the interstates and the bridges, and those are something we excel at. But these types of projects are also ones that we excel at, but we really have to have that working relationship with local government, with our state legislature and advocates to get these projects done. So our next speaker, I'm really happy to introduce, and I feel like I introduce him on an ongoing basis, and it's really because I do. He is frequently at the center of these kinds of projects. So he has always been a strong local supporter of any project that connects communities. Please welcome Senator Jamie Eldridge.
Thank you. And after this, I'm introducing Rep. Benson, or you?
I can do it either way, whichever you prefer.
Thank you, Administrator Gulliver, and this is a terrific turnout. Thank you, everybody, for coming. We weren't sure what the turnout would be on a very hot August. I do want to thank Administrator Gulliver. He said that we see each other a lot. There's a lot of important Mass Highway, Mass DOT, transportation, road, bridges, rail trail projects in the 14 communities I represent. And the administration has been very generous throughout the district that I represent. I want to thank Secretary Pollock for being here. And I know that she was at the groundbreaking for the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail about 4 years ago, which is now complete. And Representative Hogan and I were at the groundbreaking for this rail trail 2 years ago in Maynard. And so it's just wonderful to see this moment come together. Secretary Pollock really highlighted what a rail trail brings to a community and communities. This one is particularly important, I think, because it's multimodal. It's connecting a rail trail to the South Acton train station, which, as many people here know, is recently constructed. I'm already seeing people bike from Maynard and from Sudbury to take the train. So that's wonderful to see. I'm hoping to see more of an economic development generator to South Acton Village with the construction of this rail trail, and just people getting out and exercising, families enjoying time off. So I'm just so grateful that this project has come to fruition. Secretary Pollock, it has been 11 years since this phase of this project, the 3.4 miles, about $6.9 million investment of state dollars. And I remember that because I remember going to those MPO meetings, I think when I was first elected as a state senator, advocating for this project. So it's terrific that it's come together. It's really been a legislative delegation group effort. Myself, Representative Hogan, Representative Benson, as well as Representative Atkins, who unfortunately couldn't be here. But I'm very proud to represent Acton, Maynard, and Sudbury, the three towns which this portion of the rail trail goes through. Again, connecting the train station downtown Maynard, and also on the Sudbury side, the Assabet River National Wildlife Refuge, which is just an amazing jewel for this area. I did want to thank a few people in particular. First, and she's sitting down in front of me, is Michelle Socolo, who did some of the early planning on this rail trail. So Michelle, thank you so much for your help and vision. Really appreciate it. I want to thank Roland Bartle, the town planner, who did yeoman's work on this for all those 11 years plus. Roland, thank you so much for your vision in carrying out this plan. And I know that he'll be speaking a little bit later, but I want to thank Tom Kelleher, head of the Friends of the Assabet River Rail Trail. Tom, thank you for seeing this through. And Tom, I just remember meeting you when I came back home to Acton after law school, and I think I became a member of the Friends before I was elected to the legislature and just did my beginning advocacy. So it's wonderful to see this day come to fruition. So thanks everyone for coming. I know so many people here have done different parts to advocate for this special day. I'm incredibly proud to have this ribbon cutting today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator. And having a good senator is only really half the equation when it comes to strong leadership in the State House. So it really takes another effective partner on the House side of things. And we really do have an effective partner here. In fact, we have two. I'll be introducing the first one now. Please welcome Representative Jennifer Benson.
Thank you. Thank you. So I have to take a moment to thank the Secretary, the Administrator, the whole administration on supporting this. This has been a group effort through 2 administrations and lots of local partners. And so, and obviously the advocates. Thank you, thank you, thank you for everything you do. I've raised 3 kids in Central Mass, and I taught them how to ride their bikes on a rail trail. And you know, it is transportation, and critically important to connect to the commuter rail station. I think this will be a very heavily used portion of the rail trail system here. But it's a great way for families to get out, be safe with young kids, and we were constantly looking for those opportunities. And very early on, when we moved to Central Mass, we really fell in love with the rail trails in the area. So I encourage you all, use it, enjoy it. My daughters will tell you they're not a big fan of the rail trail because they got in a horrible bike crash on the rail trail when they saw a snake. So there may be wildlife, be aware. But through my adulthood travels, I remember going to Helsinki, Finland several years ago, amazed at this cold environment that they would have these bicycle highways all through the countryside leading into the city so that people could commute every day, rain, snow, covered areas, and use their bikes all the time. And I thought, we need to be doing this, and slowly but surely we are. So I have a citation from both myself and Representative Hogan. From the Commonwealth of Massachusetts House of Representatives, be it hereby known to all that the Massachusetts House of Representatives offers its sincerest congratulations to the Assabet River Rail Trail, Inc., in recognition of the completion of the Assabet River Rail Trail project. The entire membership extends its very best wishes and expresses the hope for future good fortune and continued success in all endeavors. Given this 10th day of August, 2018, signed by myself, Representative Hogan, and Robert DeLeo, Speaker of the House. And I am going to give this to Tom. Thank you.
Oh,
Congrats.
good grief. Thank you. All right, thank you, Representative. And again, what's better than having just a good senator and a good representative, but having 2? And this area is truly fortunate, again, to have very strong, effective leadership in the State House. And through tireless advocacy, our next speaker is a true partner in the legislature. And I've been fortunate to work with her on a number of different projects throughout the years. Please welcome my friend, Kate Hogan.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Now, could I just have a point of personal privilege and call out all of my Maynard peeps? Thank you for being here. It's so nice to be here to complete this last piece of the Assabet River Trail, running through Marlborough, Hudson, Stowe, and now connecting Maynard to the commuter rail in Acton. Thank you to Secretary Pollock. Thank you to my legislative colleagues, Jamie and Jen and Corey. And these things don't get done always without our selectmen. So Chris DeSilva, who's here today, Melissa Ann Levine-Pirro, and Armand DeBekarian, also our town administrators, and in particular our town planners, so Bill Nemzer on our side. Thank you so much for all the work that you folks do. It really means the world to everyone that's able to use these trails. And of course, a big thank you to Tom Kelleher for all that he has done. If you've seen any of the old black and white photographs of the Boston and Maine Railroad chugging across the Maynard Bridge, you know that where we stand is a very foundation of this rail trail and our region's history. When the B&M tracks were first laid, maybe by some ancestors who stand here in the crowd today, the rail line fostered our local economies and brought legions of new tourists to our region. And again, we stand at another moment of change. The rail trails make our communities safer and more accessible for everyone, whether you're on a bike, in a car, or even on foot. It gives us green space to gather and join together, especially on a beautiful day like today. But of course, like the old Boston and Maine that stitched together our New England towns, the ambition of the rail trail is bigger than making a beautiful, safe route, though that is certainly one of the things we celebrate today. But it is the ambition to connect our communities. We see this connection already. Today you can take the trail into downtown Maynard to get a bite to eat or even go see a movie. You can bike to the Acton commuter rail. In fact, it's the only way to get there from Maynard. And there's a big boost in foot traffic to local business, and we are very much excited about that and all of the possibilities inherent. The rail trail highlights how creating access to vibrant green space and preserving our natural resources can help grow our local economies. And I am so excited. There are so many babies here, so many kids, because what we do today around economic development issues and environmental issues and doing the good work of creating this trail is setting a legacy and leaving a legacy for the next generation, and that I think is what I am most proud of. So thank you everyone for all of the work that you have done, and now on to even better and greater things. Thanks so much.
All right, thank you, Representative. So partnerships to get a project like this done are very crucial, and I've already mentioned the state side of the partnership with the House and the Senate and also our federal partners, but also needed on the government side is the local partnership to really drive projects like this forward. So having a strong understanding of state government is critical, and our next speaker has that. Please welcome the chair of the Acton Board of Selectmen, Katie Green.
Thank you so much, and welcome to Acton, everybody. We in town are incredibly excited to be cutting the ribbon on the second rail trail in Acton this year. These have both been a long time coming, and our community will benefit greatly from having both the Assabet River Rail Trail and the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail in our town. When I was thinking about this, earlier this week, I was at a meeting of the Recreation Commission, and there was a father there attending the meeting for the first time with his son, who was working on a Boy Scout badge in communications. And his son's task was to attend various public meetings in town and to listen for any controversial issues. They had attended a Board of Selectmen meeting earlier in the week, but apparently we were not controversial enough, so they tried the Recreation Commission. And when the issue of the rail trails came up, we actually were discussing a controversy. We were talking about how to make sure that cyclists don't leave the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail and speed around the walking trail in Nara Park. But the father wasn't focused on the controversy. When the issue of the rail trails came up, his face lit up, and he just exclaimed how much he and his family loved the newly opened rail trail in town.
And he told us how previously they had to drive and park somewhere to be able to walk for a long distance safely. And because they live right on the Bruce Freeman, now they can walk right out of their house and onto the rail trail and walk for miles. And he spoke about the families and the couples and the old people that he sees every day walking and biking and roller skating and enjoying the trail. And as a public servant, it was music to my ears, because oftentimes as elected officials or government employees or volunteers, we're very focused on the work, on the hours and the years of advocacy and the meetings and the setbacks and the small strides that it takes to complete a large project like this. And we all do it because you believe in it and you know the value of the rail trails. And you know that the economic benefits that it will bring to our town. And you know the alternative transportation options that will provide, the number of cars that will get off the road, and the connections that will allow, like the bike share program that we are planning to launch this fall right here at the head of the Assabet River Rail Trail, and that will connect in Maynard as well. But while you know the value of the project on paper, it can often feel very far away. And it's what makes moments like today's celebration and the conversation we had at the recreation meeting earlier this week so special. Because it's when you get to see and hear the fruits of all of that labor, and to know that the work that many, many, many of you here today have put into this beautiful rail trail has paid off and is making a real impact on people's lives. And this project has taken a long time in the making, and so there are many people that we want to thank for getting us here today. And so on behalf of the town of Acton, which includes here today I see fellow selectmen John Benson and Janet Adachi, our new town manager John Mangiarotti, and a number of other town staff, we want to thank a number of people, including the Friends of the Assabet River Rail Trail, especially Tom Kelleher and other members, for their persistent advocacy and outreach and support in making this project happen. And I also want to offer special thanks to Roland Bartle, Kristen Guichard, and the entire planning department in Acton. Kristen was integral to keeping the design and acquisitions for this project going on time, and Roland has been working on this since initial discussions began in the 1990s when I was in elementary school. So I'm also pretty sure that Roland actually sleeps at the transportation building because the number of MPO meetings that he's attended over the years for this project and many other projects that he's gotten to happen in Acton. We'd also like to thank Becky Williamson and her engineering team at GPI, including Matt Kearney, Jeff Bradford, and Marty Nover of Nover Armstrong, and as well as MassDOT staff, specifically Arthur Frost, Ann Sullivan, David Chedd, Pam Markey, Linda Walsh, Patrick Marion, and David Baker. And also thank counterparts in Maynard, Linda Hansen, Andrew Scribner-McLean, and the previous town manager, Kevin Sweet. And we want to give a big thank you to the property owners along the rail trail that donated or worked with the town to provide the easements and the land to make this happen. Without that, these rail trails can't take part. Particularly John Anderson, who donated a large parcel for this project. And we also want to thank all of the abutters along the trail for tolerating the construction process. People forget that this often, is impactful on these people for many years while making this wonderful thing happen for them and for all of us. So as you can tell, this is a large project with a lot of people involved, and the town of Acton is eternally grateful for all of your support, and we're thrilled to have you all of you here today as we celebrate all the hard work and officially open this portion of the Assabet River Rail Trail. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Katie. And as Katie said, when you're building rail trails in particular, it takes a strong relationship with your neighbors to make these projects happen in a way that's successful. So I'd like you to all welcome from the other side of the rail trail, Acton's neighbor, the chair of the Maynard Board of Selectmen, Chris Da Silva.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you to the secretary and all her staff for being here and for their hard work on the bike path. Thank you, Kate, Representative Bentrin, Senator Eldridge. As always, thank you both for all you do for Maynard. Also, we have our new town administrator here for Maynard today, Greg Johnson. Andrew Scribner-McLean is here, Bill Nemser, and Justine St. John, the selectman that Kate forgot. So the worst thing is when I come here, I always come out and Kate stole my speech again. So actually my speech is in my trunk. I just spent the last 2.5 hours on 95 behind a horrible accident, but that's a whole different story. But From Maynard's point of view, I can tell you that the praise to date from people that have used the bike path and shared the bike path has been high. The neighbors who have been slightly inconvenienced by construction have had high praise for both the staffs that they've contacted when they've had a problem, high praise for the developer and the contractors who have done the work. All in all, just high praise all around. Thanks from all the people that are involved and all the people who are using the path. Our Economic Development Council and committees, our small business alliances all look forward to taking part in the sharing of the bike path, enjoying the fruits of the bike path's labor, and just seeing the benefits overall to the town, which we expect to be great and we look forward to. I even bought a bike myself, so I'm doing my part for the economy. But again, thank you to Acton for hosting us today. And if you ever want to get out on a hot, sweltering day and just roast a little bit, invite the Mass DOT, because when we did the groundbreaking in Maynard, I think it was the next hottest day to today. And I'm just apologize that I can't be here in a suit and tie, but I was in traffic for a long time. So again, thank you to all of our state delegation, to the federal and the state highway departments for all the work you've done for the town of Maynard. And we look forward to continuing and making this bike path great.
Thank you, Chris. And as I mentioned earlier, it takes a number of partners, and one of the most important ones is the last piece of the puzzle to make this happen, and that's the advocacy community. Working tirelessly to connect Marlborough, Hudson, Stowe, Maynard, and Acton with multi-use paths, our next speaker impacts so many people. Every day, people from the region are interconnected by the work of the Assabet River Rail Trail. And he's been mentioned a number of times now, but again, it can't be emphasized enough. The work that he does and advocates do every day is what makes these projects happen. So I'd like to welcome their president, Tom Kelleher.
Thank you. So I'm going to zigzag around a little bit, but I'm notorious for going very fast, so you can time me. Let's see if we can do this in 3 minutes. First, all the gentlemen who still have ties on, you have my permission to take them off. Okay, I count at least 4. Okay, so I've now been doing this for 18 years, which is, I bring up only because there's still some people in our group who think I'm the newcomer. I mean, this started around 1993, 94, and a few of you from that era are here today. So in that sense, I'm the new guy in town, that many years. So anyways, when I first heard the phrase intermodal, I had no idea what that was and had trouble even finding it in the dictionary. But South Acton seems to have nailed that concept. Think about it. We've got the busiest station on the Fitchburg line, averaging over 900 passengers per day. We've got 50% of the line traffic, the largest number of bike racks in any Massachusetts transportation thing in the state. You got 100 racks, half lockers, half racks, and they're already too full. So we now have to go to 110 or 120. That's how successful the bike traffic to this station is. So that's amazing. 3 different community van services, all stop or start here at the station. As mentioned earlier, the Zagstra bike sharing station will be ready here and in downtown Maynard in just a couple of months. So now we've got the bike sharing thing checked off. And besides the big parking lot that all of us obsess about, Acton is actually managing 8 parking lots that are related to this station. If you're out of town, you may not know where we hide them, but they're kind of over there and over there and over there, and one in West Acton and one in Kelly's Corner, and they all contribute to the amazing amount of traffic of people going into Boston and back. And the other thing is this thing called reverse commute. When you're trying to build a rail trail, you get on a waiting list that can be years long, and it's a very complicated point system. And when this part of the project got described as connecting to a different transportation system, the trains, that allowed us a whole bunch of extra points and kind of jumped our position in line to get a little bit ahead of the game in regard to waiting around for our money. So, end of intermodal. So a lot of people ask me today if, okay, Acton-Maynard's done, we'll talk about Stowe in a minute, But what are you going to do next? And my reaction to that is getting these trails finished is just the start of the game. Okay, let me give you a few examples. South to north. Marlborough is just starting up a multi-million-dollar urban renewal project at the very end of the trail called the French Hill Development Project that's going to bring in more housing, affordable housing, multi-mix, recreation, another access to the trail. They're just starting up this year, and it's going to be a cool project intersecting with the rail trail. So if you're a Marlborough resident and you're going, okay, I missed all the fun 10 years ago, 15 years ago when the trail was built, go jump onto that project and have some fun. So moving down to Hudson, two things about Hudson. First, we're pretty good. We've got the volunteers, we've got pretty good at marketing. We've had a website for years. We've got a Facebook page that now has so much traffic we kind of ignore the website. We're the only rail trail project in the country that ever had its own billboards, highway billboards. And some volunteers, not me, had to learn how to design a billboard, which is a weird talent. So they were in place for 4 years. Thank you, Michelle. You were very much involved with that billboard project. The other thing going on in Hudson is, and this is part of the so-called STOW thing, is I'll bet no more than a couple of you here know about the Braun project in Hudson. And it's related to bike trails, and it's part of the future route to get from the end of the Assabet at the Stowe line through the refuge, across the road, into the Braun housing development, which is a DOD, Department of Defense housing, back when that was the Fort Devens Annex. There's still people living there in government housing, middle of nowhere. It's now being sold off. It'll be part of a regular development. It's being managed by Hudson. And then at the very end of that housing development is the Mass Central Rail Trail. So this will allow people on the Assabet to get over to Mass Central on this new project. So if you live in Hudson and you'd like to say, okay, gee, I missed Hudson. That was, what, 12 years ago? Get involved with that project. It's also indirectly one of two different solutions to the so-called Stowe Gap. So Stowe is the gap, 5 pieces of property owned by 3 people, and the municipal committee of the 5 communities are going to get re-engaged with the Stowe people, which have had a fair amount of turnover in their town government recently. So we're going to move on to Stowe on the so-called regular Stowe route, plus the gap to go around Stowe by way of Mass Central is that other project, the Braun project. So we're hopeful about that. That's the next thing to do. Now we got Acton. Excuse me, Maynard. So Maynard's done. What are we doing in Maynard? You missed all the fun. There's a project starting this fall. I bet a lot of you have been to the Bridge of Flowers in Sherburne, Massachusetts. That's actually a former railroad bridge across the river that's covered with flowers all year. A couple of Maynard volunteers are starting a project to make this the Trail of Flowers. We're probably starting with at least 1,000 bulbs this November in I believe 3 places in Maynard, eventually getting into Acton. If you want to ask the guy behind it, he's here today. Where's David hiding? There's David Mark. He's one of the troublemakers that's the instigator of this project, but he's making some progress. And so again, if you're in Maynard and you say, okay, I missed all the fun of getting Maynard built, the trail, well, now we've got to decorate it. So that's going to be fun. And finally, Acton. So we got to Acton. We're all done. What do we do next? A couple of things. First, as you know, Acton now has 2 completely different rail trails. And that isn't even a big deal anymore in Massachusetts. There's at least over half a dozen towns that have at least 2 trails in them. All well and good. But if you really want to push the envelope, you got to be a 3-peat. So there's only 3 of them in the state, as far as I know. Cambridge, Northampton, thank you, Craig Delabena, and Bedford. So all of those have 3 completely different rail trails. There's no reason why Acton can't have 3, because Acton had 3 railroads. A lot of people don't remember this. It's Aller Railroad that starts near Nara, goes, instead of going northeast towards Chelmsford, Bruce Freeman, it goes northwest towards Ford's Village, Graniteville, Groton, Pepperell, and New Hampshire. So and a considerable amount of that's publicly owned. So there's another rail trail. If you're an Acton resident and feel you missed all the fun, jump into that project. So anyways, that is my update. And I was told to mention that this gentleman here is leading a quick bike ride down the trail when we're all done today. He's going to go all the way to the Stowe line and back, correct? Correct. All right, so that little bit of housekeeping. I think we're done. I'm done. So what's next?
All right. And I know you were trying, but you missed your 3-minute mark by about 10 minutes, but came close. All right, so that concludes our speaking program for today. Thank you all for coming. If the speakers could join me, we're going to do a quick ribbon cutting over here behind us.
Which one you use your scissors with?
Are we good? Are we good? Are we good with everybody?
Here we go. Come on in. Come on in? Oh, absolutely. We can make room. All right. When I count to 3, then you cut, and if we do it right, everybody gets a little piece as a souvenir. All right? Everybody got a scissors. 1, 2, 3.
All right.
Yay!